Macklin Celebrini just put up 115 points in 82 games during his second NHL season, breaking a franchise scoring record that stood for nearly 2 decades. He's 20 years old, and multiple hockey insiders now say he's about to be handed the one title that matters more than any stat line: captain of the San Jose Sharks. Let's start with why this matters so much. San Jose hasn't had a captain since April 2025, when longtime center Logan Couture stepped away from the game due to a chronic injury that had already kept him out for almost 2 full seasons. Couture had worn the C since 2019, when he took over from Joe Pavelski, who wore it for 4 seasons before him. That's over 15 months without a permanent leader in that locker room, an unusually long gap for any NHL franchise, especially one trying to climb out of a rebuild. Into that vacuum steps a 20-year-old who was the first overall pick 2024 draft. Celebrini wore an alternate captain's A last season, his first shot at any kind of formal leadership role at the NHL level. Front offices don't hand that kind of responsibility to just anybody, especially not to a player who was still a teenager when the season started. San Jose has been deliberate and cautious about how fast they push Celebrini into bigger roles. General manager Mike Grier has said publicly that he didn't want to overload his young star too early. But that caution appears to be running out, because the results over the last 2 seasons have made the decision obvious. If he gets the full C, Celebrini would become the 11th full-time captain in franchise history, and by a wide margin the youngest player to ever hold that title for the Sharks. Now let's talk about why this isn't just a feel-good story. It's backed by production most players never touch in their entire careers, let alone by year 2. Celebrini played all 82 regular season games last year and finished with 45 goals and 70 assists for 115 total points. That broke the single-season franchise scoring record previously held by Joe Thornton, a mark that had stood since 2005 and 06, more than 2 full decades. He finished 4th in the entire NHL in scoring, ahead of players who've been in the league for a decade or more. He was also 4th in Hart Trophy voting, the award given to the league's most valuable player. To put that in context, he became one of only a small handful of teenagers in modern NHL history to reach the 100-point mark in a season. He was also named a finalist for the Ted Lindsay Award, which is voted on by the players themselves, meaning the guys he's competing against every single night recognize what he's doing on the ice. And it wasn't empty stats on a bad team. San Jose improved by 34 points in the standings compared to the year before, coming within 4 points of a playoff spot in a tightly packed Western Conference. A young core doesn't jump that far in one season without a driving force at the center of it. And for San Jose, that driving force wore number 71 almost every single night of the year. If the NHL numbers weren't enough, Celebrini's international performances this year pushed the conversation even further, and honestly may have been the tipping point in this decision. He became the first teenager ever selected to a Canadian Olympic roster for an NHL-headlined Winter Games, and he didn't just make the team. He played on the top line and finished 2nd in tournament scoring as Canada took home the silver medal in Milan. That's a stage most players never reach in their entire careers, let alone at 20 years old, playing alongside and against grown men in their physical primes. Then, just months later, Hockey Canada handed him the captaincy for the World Championship in Switzerland. That's notable on its own. What makes it even more notable is that Canada's roster for that tournament included Sidney Crosby, one of the most decorated captains in the history of the sport, and the coaching staff still kept the C on Celebrini's sweater even after Crosby joined the team. Celebrini led that Canadian squad with 6 goals and 14 points in just 10 games, pacing the entire roster in scoring. Being trusted to lead a room that includes Crosby, along with veterans like Ryan O'Reilly and John Tavares, says a lot about how the hockey establishment already views this kid. That's not a locker room where you hand out leadership as a participation trophy. Those are proven winners who've captained or played alongside captains their entire careers. Stats tell one story, teammates tell another. And in this case, both stories line up completely. When the captaincy question came up during exit interviews last season, veteran forward Tyler Toffoli didn't hesitate. When you work as hard as he does, and how intense and everything that he brings, I definitely don't see a reason why not, he said. Ryan Reeves, a player who spent his career in and around winning locker rooms across multiple organizations, went even further, comparing Celebrini directly to one of the greatest leaders the sport has ever seen. "I don't know what else he could possibly do," Reeves said. "His leadership on the ice, I've seen it before. I saw it in a guy named Sidney Crosby. That's not a throwaway line." Reeves has played with legitimate captains throughout his career, and he's putting a 20-year-old in that same breath without hesitation. When the players in the room, the ones who actually see the day-to-day habits, the practice intensity, the way somebody carries themselves after a tough loss, start making Crosby comparisons completely unprompted, that tells you the leadership case isn't just built on scoresheet numbers. It's built on how he shows up every single day. There's also a financial piece to this story that reinforces just how much San Jose is building around him. After becoming extension eligible on July 1st, general manager Mike Grier moved fast. Celebrini signed a 5-year extension worth $18.8 million annually, a deal that kicks in for the 2027-28 season and is currently set to make him the highest-paid player in the entire NHL once it begins. You don't hand that kind of long-term financial commitment to a player unless the organization sees him as the foundation of the franchise for the next decade. Pairing that contract with the captaincy would send one unmistakable message to the rest of the roster, to the fan base, and to the rest of the league. San Jose's rebuild is officially centered on Macklin Celebrini. Full stop, no ambiguity left. As of right now, the captaincy hasn't been made official. Multiple hockey insiders have described it as close to certain, with an announcement expected sometime before opening night. San Jose opens their season at home on October 1st against the Florida Panthers, the back-to-back defending Stanley Cup champions, which means if the announcement does come, it's likely to happen in the days leading up to that game, giving it maximum attention right as the new season begins. Worth comparing this to how other generational players got their captaincies. Connor McDavid was named captain of the Oilers at 19 years and 266 days old. Sidney Crosby got his C in Pittsburgh at 19 years and 297 days old. Celebrini would be 20 years and 108 days old on opening night. Slightly older than both, but still one of the youngest captains the modern NHL has ever seen. The timeline lines up remarkably well with two of the best leaders the sport has produced this century, and both of those players went on to lead their franchises to championships. So here's where things stand. Macklin Celebrini broke San Jose's single-season scoring record in just his second year, finished top 5 in league scoring and MVP voting, led Canada to an Olympic silver medal, captained his country at the World Championship over players like Sidney Crosby, and has his own teams comparing his leadership directly to Crosby's. He's also locked into a record-setting contract that ties his future to the franchise for years to come. The captaincy announcement hasn't happened yet, but based on everything we've covered, it's about as close to a formality as you'll find in professional sports. Keep an eye on San Jose in the coming weeks. Training camp is starting, and this is a story worth watching closely as the season approaches.